What's up guys, Syiler here, and in this video I'm going to be talking about garrisons, the different types of buildings within garrisons, which buildings you should be looking to build, just to give you a general idea, because when you first hit 100, or when you get your first bulk of resources or whatever, it's quite daunting to put down a building, because it's a big chunk of resources that you're investing, and you don't want to pick the wrong one. So hopefully this video will give you a better idea of what the garrison buildings do, and which ones you should really be looking to build. As it's confusing, there isn't really a straight sort of answer from looking at the garrisons at face value. So we're going to head inside. Now I do have the level 3 garrison, which means I have access to all the available plots, but that doesn't mean I can put down every single building. It only means I can put down 2 large, 2 medium, and 3 small, and that's all I'll ever be able to put down unless in the future they add a 4th or 5th level to it, but as far as we know that isn't in the works anytime soon. So for now we're going to assume it's level 3 max. Now ignore these 3 buildings as these 4 buildings, oh wait, there it is. Ignore these 4 buildings as they can't be changed. They are stationary, you don't do anything with them, they just are there by default. And we're going to first of all take a look at the large buildings, but before I get started, I want to get this through that garrisons are very, very follower focused. You want to be doing everything to help your followers as much as possible. And I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of the video, but it's all about your followers pretty much. If you want to get the most of your garrison, you want to be focusing on followers. So with that in mind, let's go on to the first building. The barracks is the first building you'll get by default. It's the first larger building you'll unlock. I think it's the first building you put down in general. And it's not a bad building, it's probably one of the better out of the options. The level 1 and level 2 traits aren't that great, but the level 3 increases your follower limit to by 5, so you go from 20 to 25. Now you might be like, well, why do I need an extra 5? If you go past 20 followers, the 21, 22, 23rd, whatever, they become inactive. They can't be put on missions, they can't be upgraded, they don't do anything, they're just inactive. And you have to pay money to swap your followers out. So if all your 20 followers are on missions, that's it, you can't swap out followers on the missions, so those inactive bunch are useless basically. So if you had an extra 5 spots, it basically gives you more flexibility for follower traits and gives you more followers to put onto missions. If you send, a vast majority of your good followers onto a day mission or whatever, then you've still got an extra 5 to play with to put into missions that come up, that like the hour ones or the 4-hour ones, and you can still be getting them done while your other followers are on a big raid. That's why the barracks is useful. So next up is War Mill. I'd say this is the first large building you want to make as soon as possible. The first reason behind that is because of the perk, the chance of getting upgraded loot. And this is huge in Nagrand because while you're questing, you'll have a higher chance of getting blues and epics from quests. And the chance is pretty high, like, you get them all the time. I've known a lot of people who picked up the War Mill and went straight from Nagrand questing, hit 100 and was straight in heroic dungeons because of the upgrades they got. So War Mill is definitely a useful building. Not only that, if you get it to level 2, which isn't too difficult, I'll be doing that very soon, it gives you access to put your resources into getting follower weapons and armor, and basically the items that you put onto your followers, and they increase the item level. The higher item level your follower has, the higher chance of success they'll have on level 100 raids and things like that. So those kind of things are very, very important. Being able to upgrade your followers is huge. And then the level 3 perk isn't anything you really need to rush towards. It's just going to save you some gold. It gives you access to a free Seals of Tempered Fate. It doesn't give you a bonus one, it just gives you one for free, so you'd normally have to buy 3 of them, now you only have to buy 2 of them. So the level 3 isn't that big, but I'd definitely rush to get this to level 2, just so you can start work on those follower missions. The follower work orders. Next up is the Goblin Workshop. This doesn't really give you very much. It gives you access to basically fun things to use within the world, like siege engines and gliders that propel you into the air and then fly you forward and just stuff like that. It's more of like a vanity thing. It doesn't really give you anything permanent to take with it. I think you get access to a follower, but that's about it. It doesn't really do anything too special. Now it's fun, If you want a fun building, that's definitely a cool one to pick, but past that it doesn't really give you any sort of real benefit. The Spirit Lodge is another kind of quality of life building. Doesn't really give you anything permanent, but it gives you access to Ogre Waystones or Waygates which are in the world, and you can basically teleport between them. So I could set up with a level 2 Spirit Lodge, I could set up a portal to High Mall and a portal near Blackrock Spire. Oh sorry, Blackrock Foundry. So it basically allows me to get around Draenor a lot faster. So more of a quality of life thing, just saves some time, doesn't really do anything too cool. The stables, this is the only building I'd consider getting if I'm, I've used up my war mill, all my followers are max sort of eye level. I'd probably swap out my war mill for my stables, or if I don't feel like I need 25 followers anymore, may swap out my barracks for the stables. One, because it gives you access to mounts that you can only get through the stables. I think it gives you access to 4 or 5 mounts, and they become permanent mounts. They're not just like things that you can use in just stables. It becomes like a mount you learn, basically. And not only that, level 2 gives you access to no longer be dazed, which is a huge thing, especially with the fact that we're not flying in Draenor. We are on our ground mounts. You get dazed by mobs all the time. You get knocked off your mount, you're now slowed. It's just a pain. So removing that aspect is huge. It's like such a big quality of life change in my opinion. And level 3 just gives you mount speed, so nothing to really rush towards, but is cool. So barracks and war mill I'd definitely say the most important 2 out of this tier. Goblin Workshop and Spirit Lodge are more quality of life / fun, and stables is kind of quality of life as well, but you get something, you take something from it, you get something permanent at least. So next up is the medium buildings. For a PvE player, and maybe some PvP players, the barn is the most important building 99% of the time. That's because of the level 3 perk. The level 1 and level 2 are okay. They give you access to meats, which you can use for cooking, gives you access to fur, which you can use for tailoring, or leather, which you can use for leather working. So these are great if you don't, you have leather working but you don't have skinning, or you want more access to cloth for tailoring, you don't really want to have to like farm it, or you want meat for cooking, it gives you access to those kind of things. But the level 3 gives you access to Savage Blood. And 1 Savage Blood costs 50 Primal Spirit, so it's quite a sort of rare item, while the other things cost 10. So it is quite a great item. Savage Blood is what you need for the higher end crafting the crafting recipes. Savage Blood is huge. The more Savage Blood you can get, the sooner, the better, basically. So level 3 barn is the one thing that you kind of want to rush towards as a PvE player. The Lumber Mill. This is a great building if you want to earn resources over time and you don't really want to invest your own gold or materials into it. It gives you access to the Lumber Mill. You can go out, cut down trees in the world, and you'll turn those trees into resources. Every 4 hours you'll get 20 resources. Now the sad thing about this building is level 2 you don't really gain anything. Yeah, you can cut down medium trees, but they basically just give you more materials for work orders. You don't actually gain more resources from level 2. Level 3 gives you access to a follower that you can put in your lumber mill, and he'll give you a chance of doubling the resources you get, so you'll have a chance of getting 40 instead of 20, but still no permanent increase. So lumber mill, as I said, is great if you just want to, cut down some trees while you're doing quests or whatever, and gives you resources over time. It's great to just get an extra chunk of resources. That's why I have it right now. The Frostwolf Tavern is pretty cool. I didn't realize how cool this was, and I'd even consider swapping out and getting this now. Now, this gives you a lot of follower things, gives you access to a rented follower, basically. It gives you access to some quests which will unlock a follower permanently, and also gives you access to dailies, which will give you gear. It gives you access to dungeon dailies. Not only that, it also gives you access to quests, which will give you a lot of toys and cool things as well. So the Frostwolf Tavern is quite a decent building. You don't get really too many followers from it, but the fact that you can recruit a follower with specific needs is kind of cool. So you can get a follower if you have like a big mission and you're missing like a specific follower that isn't high enough level, you can recruit that through your tavern. So it isn't that bad of a building. Once I have enough resources, I might consider swapping out to the Frostwolf Tavern. Gladiator's Sanctum is a must for PvPers. Kind of like the barn for PvEers, this will give you access to PvP gear. You basically go out in the world, kill players, and you'll get broken bones. You can place work orders with those broken bones, which will give you access to PvP gear. And once the work order is finished, you'll get some PvP gear from a box. It's random what you actually get, but it's still basically free PvP gear for PvP, and it's kind of a cool thing. Gives you extra, basically gives you gear for world PvP, which is a cool concept. Not only that, but you get some like cool perks and things like that with the level 2. And level 3 gives you access to the High Mall Coliseum Gladiator Tournament, which if you win, you get a really cool title for it. And you also get a banner that you can place into players, you know, like the flag of ownership type deal. Pardon me. And not only that, but you get a lot of titles from the Gladiator's Sanctum, a lot of PvP-based titles like Orc Slayer, Human Slayer, that kind of stuff. Things that you can only get with the Gladiator's Sanctum. So, if you're a PvPer, Gladiator's Sanctum, I feel, is definitely for you. The trading post is kind of a mix of a few things. Now, it'll give you access to swap resources for crafting materials, so you can get yourself more crafting materials. It also works vice versa. You can swap crafting materials for resources, so it gives you a way of basically trading something for resources. So if you're okay with using materials to get resources, Trading Post is definitely for you over the lumber mill. Not only that, it gives you access to an auctioneer if you collect all the parts, an auctioneer in your garrison, and it gives you an access to a faction that you can only get through the Trading Post, which if you get exalted you can get a mount, I think you can get a follower, some transmog gear, some like vanity stuff. So it isn't a bad option either. So Barn for PvEers, 100% pretty much. Gladiator's Sanctum, 100% for PvPers. Lumbermill if you just want like passive resources over time, you don't really want to have to invest anything into it. Great option. Frostwolf Tavern, a bit more follower orientated and is pretty cool for the dungeon gear as well. And then Trading Post is kind of like a bit of a mix. You get some resources, but you have to use something. You can get some followers from it. You can get some rep gains and things like that. So, yeah, between those three, I couldn't really tell you which one you should go for. It's more of what you want out of the post, basically. But Barn, I'd say, is 100% for PvEers, and Gladiator Sanctum 100% for PvPers. They're just too good to pass up, really. And then small buildings. Bar 2 of the buildings, these are all profession-based. So we'll move on to the two sort of non-profession-based buildings first of all. Salvage Yard is what I've currently got, and the reason behind that is when I finish a mission, I'll have a chance of getting a salvage box. I open that box, and it has a chance of giving me follower loot, you know, item level increases, that kind of stuff. I believe it can give gear as well. I haven't had anything yet, but I think it's kind of like a chance of giving you like some world BOEs or something along those lines. And it can give trash, so it's kind of like a lucky bag. And it gives you free loot. You don't really have to do anything with it. It doesn't use work orders. It kind of just is standalone and produces things over time. So it's kind of cool. The storehouse gives you access to your own bank. Total number of active work orders for all buildings by 5. But that doesn't really do too much. Active work orders basically increases the amount you can have total. So if you can have 7 now, you'll be able to have 12. But that doesn't really make any difference because it still takes 4 hours per one. So I always see that as kind of like a useless perk. It gives you access to the guild bank, and level 3 gives you access to like the ethereal vendors basically. So it's okay. If you don't want to go to Orgrimmar and things like that to access your bank, then it could be for you. And then on to the profession-based ones. So, say for example you've picked Salvage Yard, you've got two spots left. Say for example you have leatherworking and blacksmithing. In that case, you have 2 options. One, you could go with the tannery and the forge, which is basically blacksmithing related and leatherworking related. The reason you'd want to look into getting those is because they give you extra cooldown materials each day. So for example, with leather working, it's burnished leather. I can only get so many per day. But with the tannery, it gives me access to an extra 1 to 2 every 4 hours because of my follower gives me a chance of doubling it. So it basically means I'm earning more per day, and that's great. You know, it means I can get to that crafted gear a lot sooner. Same with the forge, it'll give you access to the blacksmithing cooldowns a lot more. So that's option 1. You can pick something that's related to your profession so you get more of the cooldown materials so you can craft things faster. The other option is to go for something you don't have, and it'll give you access to some of the things within that profession, the vast majority of the things really, and also some side perks as well. So for example, I have the enchanting study, so it gives me access to enchanting recipes. But not only that, it gives me access to disenchant things as well. So I can go there with my greens, my blues at level 2 and level 3 epics, disenchant them and get materials from it. So, and if the work orders from that is also epic, like crystals, the sort of epic enchanting material. So enchanting is quite a nice one to have as a standalone building. And it'd be the same with all these buildings, you know, Alchemy Lab would give you access to creating flasks if you don't have alchemy. Engineering Works is a bit meh. I think it gives you access to the Engineering Helm, which is a 540 base, and it might be upgradable. But the perks, you can get like the glider and a couple of other things, but you can't get the rocket boots, so it's okay. I'd say that's one of the weaker. Gem gives you access to like jewel crafting gems, that kind of stuff. Inscription gives you access to the new glyphs and all that kind of good stuff. And tailoring gives you access to the tailoring recipes. So once again, this one's kind of hard for me to tell you what you want, but I would definitely recommend going with like, if you're going to be focusing on followers, Salvage Yard is definitely something I've found beneficial to have. You know, I've been getting quite a lot of item levels from this. I've gotten about 10 item levels on 2 followers just from this. Oh, sorry, 9 item levels on 2 followers just from this. Just from getting the free items for doing nothing. So it's a great building that doesn't require anything and just gives you free stuff. I've gone with the tannery because I have leather working, so I get access to more materials. And I have skinning, so I don't need like a blacksmithing or whatever. So I went with the enchanting lab so I can disenchant gear that I pick up, you know, consistently from the rares and things like that. And it gives me some gold income if I choose to sell it, or it gives me access to the enchanting, you know, recipes that I normally wouldn't have. I'd have to go get someone to do it for me. So it's quite a nice quality of life change. Or you could scrap all 3 of these and go for 3 professions that you don't have, so that you've got access to, say for example, you have alchemy and inscription. And you could pick up the tannery, the forge, and the enchanter's study. So now you've got access to the leather / mail gear, the blacksmithing plate gear or weapons, and enchanting on top of your alchemy and inscription. So you're really maximizing the amount of professions that you can sort of dabble in. So it's up to you which way you want to go about it, basically. I'd definitely say it's worth looking towards where you get extra cooldown materials each day, because it means you're going to be getting the crafting gear sooner, and that's always a good thing. But that's up to you. And then these 4 buildings, you can't change, they are permanent, they don't move, but they give you free stuff. The mine will give you access to ore each day, and you can put in a work order for extra ore. The herb garden gives you access to herbs each day. Fish enchant gives you access to fish. And the menagerie gives you access to like pet battle stuff, which I don't really bother with on this account. So, but yeah, that is your garrison. So hopefully that's give you a better idea of what buildings you should be looking towards and how you should be doing things. Now, a few side notes. First of all, followers. You want to try and get at least your cap on followers. Let's just get this out there. It's not gonna let. There we go. There's a lot of followers that you can get, and you can check this list to find out, well, to get a general idea of where they come from. You want to try and get them all to level 100, because that's where they're going to have the highest success and be able to access the better missions. If you get, say for example, a green follower, once it hits 100, it'll start gaining experience again, and once it dings, it'll turn blue or rare, and then once it dings again, it'll hit epic. So if you have a green or blue follower, it can, once it hits 100, it can still go higher. So keep that in mind as well. If you think, oh, I'm not going to level this guy because he's green, then do it, because it's worthwhile. So you want to try and get your cap on followers, just so you have more followers available to play with. You want to be setting up your work orders, at least one. You know, you should have one active on each building if possible, just so you're consistently getting them, the materials from them. And in terms of garrison resources, if you're struggling to get them, get an add-on like what I have, Handy Notes and Handy Notes Draenor Treasure. Go around and kill or loot all the different resource-based bosses or items in the world. So there's items that will give you like 20 resources, or items that could give you 100 resources, like more rare ones. Or each rare you kill will give you like 20 resources as well. So go around, as you can see, I've cleared out most of the normal rares. I've not finished Talador yet, but I've killed out like most of the rares just to get my buildings up. Most of my buildings are level 2, I have a level 3 garrison, and you know, I'm in pretty good shape. So that's a way to get yourself some bonus resources, along with having like a lumber mill or something along those lines. And in Gorgrond, based on which building you picked, either the lumber mill or the gladiators arena, you can go around the zone and there'll be like rocks or vines that you can cut / break and get like 20-30 resources from them as well. And there's quite a few, it'll get you like 300 resources from there. So there's a lot of ways of getting resources. It's kind of time consuming, but they didn't really want you to have level 3 garrison on day 1. And the final note is, to get your level 3 buildings, you need to be placing work orders. So you want to always have work orders going, because the more work orders you have like consistently active, the faster you'll basically unlock your level 3 buildings and have access to the better perks. So hopefully this video has helped you out. Sorry it was a bit longer than I expected. Took a while to go through all the different things. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to ask and I'll get back to them as soon as possible. So yeah.